CarolinaPrepper.com. If you're looking for quality food storage for hiking, fishing, hunting, basic survival needs, or just for everyday use, check out our food storage line at CarolinaPrepper.com. We also carry other fine quality products, such as our can-can concealment holsters for men and women. Keeping your firearm under cover and within reach puts confidence in your hands in any situation. Our products are 100% American-made. Check us out today at CarolinaPrepper.com.
And now, it's time to Stand for Truth with the host of Stand for Truth Radio, Susan Knowles.
And welcome to the program, everyone. I'm your host, Susan Knowles. So glad you could join us today. Please check out my website at susanknowles.com, and don't forget to follow Stand for Truth Radio with a variety of shows that I do, such as Knowles on the News and God's Views on political news with my co-host, Bill Cloud. To hear all the podcasts, just go to Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker phone app and type in Stand for Truth Radio with Susan Knowles. All the shows can also be heard on iHeartRadio, and the easiest way to find that is just go to susanknowles.com, click on the big iHeartRadio logo. It will take you right there. And finally, follow me on Twitter at Susan Knowles. So the big mystery has been solved today. We found out that it was Paul Manafort who's been indicted by the Robert Mueller investigation. Now, I think most of us knew it was Paul Manafort, and at least we had a really good guess that it was. Here's somebody that has been looked at, house was raided, et cetera, et cetera. It was only, I don't know, common sense, I think, to figure out that it was probably going to be Paul Manafort. I know those on the left are sorely disappointed because they thought that it was going to be the president. So they were hoping, they were probably talking about it all weekend, and maybe that's something that Robert Mueller wanted to enjoy, and that's why he announced it on Friday, so that everybody would have all weekend to sit and wonder, gosh, who could it be? Who could it possibly be? So it's Paul Manafort. No big surprise there. Now let's take a look at what it is that we're talking about in regards to Paul Manafort. We know that there are 12 counts against him in this indictment by the grand jury. Now, just so you know, and you probably do, but I'll tell you anyway, just in case. The grand jury is similar to, then the next step would be to have the person arrested, or in this case, Manafort, through his attorneys, they just came in and the media was calling it surrender. I don't think it has to be so drastic that he surrendered. But anyway, he came in and said, here I am. And the next steps will be whether or not a prosecutor will decide whether or not they're going to go forward. On all likelihood, with the charges that we're seeing and the counts that we have, I think it's very likely that they will go forward, no question. But let's take a look at what the counts are. So the first count is a conspiracy against the United States. That sounds really drastic, right? You're thinking, oh, okay, well, that's got to be President Trump they're talking about, and they were conspiring together to go against the United States and interfere with the elections in Russia. Well, if you were thinking that, you'd be wrong. Because in this case, what it is, it's in impeding, impairing, obstructing the lawful function of the DOJ and the Department of Treasury. And what that really means is that he probably lied on his taxes. And, you know, if you're lying on your taxes and you're lying to the DOJ, you're breaking all kinds of laws. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. And the conspiring is he has an associate, Rick Gates. So that's what they're kind of looking at, and also maybe anybody else that he conspired with. But it boils down to tax fraud. Okay, tax fraud. And we're looking at the time being from the years 2006 to 2017. So it kind of leaves it open in case they can find something against President Trump. But again, there's nothing in here in count one that is connected in any way to President Trump. Now let's go on to count two. Money laundering. wire transfers in and out of the United States from the years 2006 to 2016. It's all on him and his associates and anybody else that they may or may not be able to find on down the line, but nothing mentioned about President Trump in this second count too. So next would be counts 3 through 6. Let's see if there's anything there about the president. Failure to file reports of foreign bank and financial accounts for the calendar years 2011 through 2014. That period there of time has nothing to do at all with the campaign. Now, counts 7 through 9. Failure to file reports of foreign banks and financial accounts for the years 2011 through 2013. Again, nothing that's associated with the campaign in 2016. Count number 10. Unregistered agent of foreign principal. So not registering as a foreign agent. And the calendar years 2008 to 2014. Again, nothing to do with the time period of the campaign. Count 11. False and misleading FARA statements, F-A-R-A, which has to do with registering as a foreign agent. So false and misleading statements to the DOJ in November 23rd, 2016 to February 10, 2017. Now that is obviously during the campaign. And of course that would more than likely have to do with statements that he made to the DOJ and falsified those statements. That's what that's leading to, and that's having to do with being the campaign manager, I'm sure. And then the count 12, the same thing, false statements on the same dates. Okay, so in all of those counts, we have nothing about the president, nothing about the campaign, except the last two, counts 11 and 12. And my question has to be immediately, and I think everybody's question is going to be, well, wait a minute. I thought you were working on Russian interference with the campaign. I mean, after all, that's why Special Counsel Robert Mueller was appointed in the first place. And yet we see that really everything that we have here in counts 1 through 12 have nothing to do with that, except the last two, maybe something to do with the campaign. And so this goes back to what everybody has been saying all along, that Rod Rosenstein is allowing Mueller to do anything and everything and look at anything and everything he wants. And we look at this, going back to 2006. So here's what I want to tell you as a taxpayer. You have a special counsel that was hired to do one specific thing, and yet he's going back way beyond the time period of the campaign to look at something dealing with tax evasion, fraud on your taxes, whatever you want to call it, and some other things. He's been given all of this free rein to do whatever he wants to do. That's not what he was appointed to do. And let's look a little closer at other things. Robert Mueller was appointed the FBI director under George Bush. And he remained on as FBI director under former President Obama. So from 2001 to 2013, Robert Mueller was the FBI director. And during that same time period, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch were AGs during that time period, and other people too, but let's just focus on them. So we're going back and we're looking at 2006 to 2017. And we appoint a special prosecutor who comes up with, okay, here's a tax fraud, possible tax fraud, and other things. Maybe not registering, wire transfers in and out of the United States, which are big deals, right? The big deals. But they all went on from the periods of 2006 predominantly to 2014. 2006 to 2014 were when the major allegations, the major charges were incurred, when they happened. So during that time, again, Robert Mueller was the FBI director. And we had at least part of that time Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch as the DOJ. Tell me why that the FBI and the DOJ weren't doing their jobs to find stuff about people, stuff like this about people. Why weren't they doing it? Why weren't they doing their jobs during that time period? If they had been doing their jobs, don't you think that Paul Manafort and his dealings would have been found out years ago, 11 years ago on some of these things? So why weren't they doing their jobs? And it doesn't matter they weren't doing their jobs. I guess some of the things I look at and say, well, if they weren't doing their jobs on Paul Manafort and Rick Gates and they didn't see that for 11 years, who else fell through the cracks that they missed? And you as a taxpayer really ought to be incensed because you've paid not only for the FBI and the DOJ to do their jobs, but you have now paid for a special counsel to come in and do the job that the FBI and the DOJ should have done over those past 11 years. And not only that, if you want to look at it, for much of this, Mueller is getting paid twice, right, for the job that he was doing as FBI director. He got paid for that already. And then he gets paid as special counsel for doing, again, going back and looking at the time when he was hired as FBI to doing the job again. So he's getting paid twice, really. If you want to look at it, he's getting paid twice for doing the job he should have done when he was the FBI director. And you and I are paying for it out of our taxes, is exactly what we're doing. And yet, everybody seems to be pretty happy about it. Okay, well, he's gotten Paul Manafort here. We're at least as a start. He really doesn't have Paul Manafort. He's got a start. It's an indictment. You got to wait and see if the charges are going to be filed and if we're going to go forward, which, like I said, I think we are. But what is this going to do? Well, this is going to be one of those cases like the FBI and the DOJ usually handle. And yet we have a special prosecutor doing it. And we've been over, how long now? Asking for Mueller to step down. And all the time we get Republicans who, like Trey Gowdy, even Trey Gowdy saying, oh, no. Mueller's great. He's doing a great job. And let's let him do his job. We have and what happens over the weekend? Well, there's a leak on Friday, and then Trey Gowdy comes out and says, well, I'm really disappointed in Mueller because the one thing I told him that we needed to do is to stop the leaks. Well, I guess that really didn't happen. And really, we also have the president who seems to be pretty happy with Mueller in this position. I'm not sure why. I haven't been happy since the very beginning. I've written a lot of articles about it, and I have the articles at SusanKnowles.com. Robert Mueller, whether you believe he's done anything wrong at all, and really right now, I don't care. I do and I don't care if he's done anything wrong. I'm looking for justice. If we're going to do something, and no matter what we do, no matter what charges come against in this case or in any other case that's handled in any court across the United States, I want to see justice done. And I don't feel that there's justice done when there's an appearance of impropriety from a special counsel that has so many conflicts of interest, it's not even funny. I mean, going back from when he talked to Comey and regarding the Russian interference, this is a man that worked with Comey, had a long-term friendship with Comey, great relationship with these two. One, when Mueller was the FBI director, next after that came Comey. You know, they knew each other, worked together under Eric Holder, under Obama at one point, and yet we have Mueller bringing in Comey to talk about what he knew about obstruction, about Russian interference, about probably that's it. Probably not about Hillary because we don't want to go there, but we're just going to talk about that. And again, he could have gone and talked about Hillary, but because I have this feeling, you know, and facts that Mueller has conflicts of interest. My mind wants to say, well, I'm sure he didn't talk about Hillary, you know, because that's what happens. You have doubt when there's a look and feel of impropriety in anything, whether anything was done wrong or not. You question that, and you should question that. And then you know, the next question comes, well, you know, are you really, if you went back to 2006 and you looked at Manafort on this quote unquote Russian interference, which we know, you know, these two are not connected seemingly, because a lot of that what happened with Manafort happened long before President Trump came into the picture. And there's only 2 counts again at the 11 and 12 that have anything whatsoever to do with the time period that President Trump was in the campaign for president and was president. You know, so that connection is very hard to make there on him Mueller doing his job. But what we do know is that during a certain time period under Obama, the Obama administration, and when we're talking about Uranium One, there is a connection with Robert Mueller and Uranium One. So is he going to go and research that when he's looking at everything else? Because, you know, there were Russians involved in Uranium One. So if we went back to 2006 looking at Manafort for tax evasion where Russians were involved, are we going to look at Hillary on the same thing? Now, here's where the conflict comes in again. As the FBI director under Uranium One, he was the person in charge of the investigation. Now, he assigned Rod Rosenstein to head that investigation. And at the time also, Eric Holder was the DOJ in charge of everything that was going on in regards to the wrongdoing of Russians and racketeering scheme that came out of what the Russians were doing with the Americans regarding this deal, this uranium deal. So, if nothing else, the former FBI director, now special counsel, Robert Mueller, has knowledge about what happened in Uranium One. And remember that the accusations are now that they knew about, they being the DOJ and the FBI, knew about the corruption with the Russians in 2010. This was before the deal was signed with the Uranium One deal, which gave away 20% of our uranium because the Canadian company that was sold, Rosatom, in this uranium deal, they owned 20% of our uranium at the time. So the DOJ and the FBI are charged with knowing about all of this corruption and allowing this deal to go forward anyway in 2010 with the uranium deal, which the Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, was in on and signed off on. So did Obama. So did Eric Holder, who was on the same committee that Hillary was on. They all said, yep, sign off on it, let's go, it's all good. Okay, so then the question becomes, would Robert Mueller perhaps be a witness against Eric Holder, Hillary Clinton, and Obama, if ever there was a special counsel appointed to look into that? And the answer clearly is yes. Yes, absolutely he would be. And then the second question is, could he possibly be staying quiet and not looking into anything regarding uranium-1 and Russia interaction and how that may connect to the interference with Russian connection, because he doesn't want to out himself. You know, he doesn't want to open up a can of worms. He doesn't want to be called as a witness. Or did he have perhaps any culpability himself in the whole uranium-1 deal? I'm not saying he does. I'm saying what we do know is that there is a conflict of interest, a field of impropriety that we're not addressing. We, being the Republicans, are not addressing, the GOP, the Congress. And so we allow this man to stay in as a special counsel, and even more so after today, after Manafort. Everybody's, oh, okay, well, look, he's doing a job. He's doing a great job. He's not going after the president. He's going after Manafort. And then we also, we have to ask, is there any connection, even going back as far as that dossier that was written by Christopher Steele when Fusion GPS was supposedly hired by the Clinton Foundation and the DNC, and now we're finding out that Obama's group, Organizing for America, paid money for information of the dossier. And again, we have to ask, could there possibly be a connection between Mueller when he was FBI director, that meaning way back there, uranium-1, that led up to what took place in, with the dossier? Did Clinton and the DNC ask for this dossier to get information that somehow came out of uranium-1? That's a little bit far-fetched, but we don't know. We don't know because it hasn't been investigated. We don't know if there's a connection, a Russian connection that connects uranium-1 to the Fusion GPS dossier on up to, quote-unquote, Russian interference with the election. We don't know any of that. What we do know is that one possible connection here is Robert Mueller. Now, I know there's other people connected. I'm not, I'm just focused on Robert Mueller right now because my point is that he shouldn't be special counsel. And yes, if we're looking at Robert Mueller, we have to look at all the other potential players that are involved, like Hillary, Obama, Eric Holder, on and on and on. But again, I just wanted to focus on Robert Mueller because my point is, once again, this man should never have been appointed special counsel, and he should be asked to step down. They're not going to do that right now. I can tell you that. And they being the Republicans, the Congress, the president, nobody's going to ask him to step down now. He got an indictment, and in everybody's mind on the left and some on the right, it's going to look, well, he's doing his job. He's going in there and he's getting the wrongdoers. And so why would we want to remove him and all the work he's done so far? We'd have to be starting all over again. Okay. And just if that's the way you want it, then that's the way it's going to be. To me, that just says, again, we don't know if justice is being served. We don't know if Mueller is doing a complete job that has something to do with, looking at himself, at the Clintons, at Obama, Holder, Lynch, and on and on and on. That being said, if you're happy with leaving Mueller in, which I'm not, but if the majority of people are, the president is, Congress is, we still need a special counsel appointed to look at possible wrongdoing in uranium-1, the Fusion GPS dossier, and any potential interference they could have done with the Russians that in connection with our elections. If we sit back and don't do that, then all we're doing is what the GOP does best, and that is being reactive instead of proactive. I mean, I've heard so many excuses why we shouldn't do this now. Oh, let's just wait and see what happens. Oh, I'm sure people are, and President Trump, are just tired of the fact that this goes on day in and day out. And I'm sure he's hoping, let's just get through this, let's get it ended, and let's move on. It's not going to end, Mr. President. It really isn't going to end. And I think that there may be other people to come. And I don't think it's going to be President Trump. I never have from the beginning, and I still don't think that. But I think it possibly could be Flynn, it could be Podesta, and Tony Podesta, probably not John. And it's going to turn out to be stuff that they did wrong, like forgetting to, quote unquote, forgetting to register as a foreign agent, tax evasion, things of that nature. We need to be looking at other things. We need to be looking at wrongdoing that was done of a criminal nature that doesn't have anything to do with tax evasion or anything of that type of thing. Now, and don't get me wrong, tax evasion, tax fraud, extremely important. They need to be prosecuted for it, yes. The bigger deal here in my mind is what is it that was done to the American public, to national security. Again, don't forget that when this Uranium One deal was done, it's come out now, from all the investigations that were done, that there were possible national security breaches when these companies were working with the Russians after the sale. And again, has the uranium been transported outside of the United States? We're not asking those questions. That was never supposed to happen. Why? And maybe they are. Why aren't we trying to find out where this uranium went to? Did people know before this deal that this was the goal of selling the uranium to the Russians? That eventually, this is my opinion only, and it's been this way, and you can go back and listen to God's Views on Political News, my other show that I do with my co-host Bill Cloud, and we discussed it then. And my opinion at that time, and it still is today, that this uranium was sold to Russia so it could end up in the hands of Iran and possibly be used against Israel. Now, whether anybody intentionally did that or unintentionally, I believe that was the final goal. Just my opinion. And I guess we'll never find that out unless a special counsel is appointed to go and look at all of that. And you might say, well, why do we need a special counsel? We have the House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee. They're all asking questions now. They're all going to look into this. I have seen so many investigations done by the House and the Senate that have led to absolutely nothing. Benghazi went nowhere. We talked a lot, looked good, made a good show, but it went nowhere. Things aren't going to go anywhere unless you have people who are willing to go out there and bring indictments. And we need to, when we appoint a special prosecutor, let's give that person as free a run as Robert Mueller is getting. If it's good for one side, then it's good for the other. I don't believe in doing that, but if you have somebody that you're giving free rein to and nobody's reeling him in like Robert Mueller, then you got to have it on the other side too. And if it goes back for 15 years, well, you know what? I guess go back for 15 years. If that's the way that the game is going to be played, then again, we have to stop being reactive. We have to start being proactive and going out there and looking for and finding people to indict. I think there's a possibility of a whole lot of people that we could do that with, and we're not doing it. And I've had people say to me, but, I'm just one person. What do I do? How do I make a difference? And causing any of this to come about as far as the special counsel is concerned. Well, the way you do it, you put pressure on Congress. I know sometimes that doesn't work. You put pressure on the DOJ, And in this case, Sessions could, again, possibly recuse himself because it has something to do with Russia, although I would make the case here for Jeff that this is about Uranium One and the dossier. Again, when you get into that dossier, you're getting into the election, so Jeff's going to want to recuse himself. Uranium One, not so much. But I think the best bet would be to go and put pressure on Congress and tell them you need to appoint a special counsel right now. I mean, how many millions, I don't know, have we already spent as taxpayers on, again, something that should have been the job of the FBI and the DOJ? And if you're looking at it, really, Uranium One, that should have been the job of the FBI and the DOJ. And I know we did have some things that came down and some people were brought up on charges and all that, but we didn't look at our own people. And so now we should be looking at our own people. We should be looking at Hillary. We should be looking at all the allegations about the money that changed hands, the money that went to the Clinton Foundation, the money that was paid to Bill for his speeches, twice the amount, the other donations that came in, all of that before the agreement was even signed in most instances. And so we go out, we look at Paul Manafort for fraud he's done, but we don't question any of that was fraudulent. Any of that was a pay-to-play scheme. Any of that broke other types of laws. We don't bother. And then we have allegations with this dossier. We're looking at that with Fusion GPS, and we're saying, well, there's been an FEC filing because there's been campaign rule violations. Okay, and again, these are allegations. But if that's true, and we do know it's true that there are allegations, why aren't we appointing a special counsel for that? Why are we allowing it to just kind of go through the court system when we should have this is high-level stuff. We're not talking about somebody like a Manafort. He's not the president of the United States. He's not a vice president. He's not a secretary of state. We're talking high-level people here and the possibility of wrongdoing that could have occurred or at least should be investigated. We're talking about a former FBI Director Mueller. We're talking about a former Secretary of State. We're talking about a former DOJ holder, at the least, and a former President Obama that could potentially have some connections to wrongdoing in regards to Uranium One and, the violations under the campaign violations and the possibility of all of them that I just named having some type of connection to any Russian interference. And you may say, well, how do we get that? How do you get those people over to something now to Russian interference? I don't know if part of what's being claimed that there was Russian interference was that because Russia was mad at Hillary and didn't want her to win, or was Russia trying to help Hillary to win? We don't know because we haven't looked at it. We haven't looked at the connections. We haven't crossed the I's and dotted the T's. And obviously, we can't sit back and wait for the FBI and the DOJ to do their jobs because they're not. And I know a lot of people may disagree with me and say, well, but there was some investigations that were done into some of these things and yada, yada, yada. Again, we're talking 2006 to 2017 on some of these things that weren't done. We're also talking about during this time, and somebody that I haven't mentioned yet, FBI Director Comey, former FBI Director Comey. What did he have to do with any or all of this? Anything or nothing? We don't know. Another reason that a special prosecutor needs to be appointed to look at all of this. And I know as well as you do, it's going to be really, really hard to try to find somebody who's independent, somebody who's neutral. It's extremely difficult. And you know, I don't know if this has ever been done, but perhaps we should be looking into hiring 2 special prosecutors to work together, so that if one goes bad, maybe we have hope and the other one won't. I think, and I say that a little bit in jest, but a little bit, you know, with things that we're looking about in our society and what we are seeing and what's gone wrong and how deep that we on the right think that the swamp is, maybe that's what we need to do. The people on the left, if you talk to them, there's no problem. They think there's no swamp. They think that the corruption has all been about President Trump, and this for them is just one more indication. Man, we almost got him. We can taste blood now. We can smell the blood even, and it's crazy. So, and people say, well, you know, I don't understand why you feel that way about Robert Mueller. He's a registered Republican. I don't care. I don't care if he's a registered spaceman. You know, I honestly don't care, because there are just too many questions about this person in this position, the positions that he formerly held, that need to be investigated. And I don't care who it was, let's just say that Robert Mueller wasn't special counsel. I would still be saying that Robert Mueller's part in all of this needs to be investigated. Again, it doesn't mean he was guilty of anything, but he was present. He was a FBI director. He was involved. And at least could potentially be a witness against these other people, if nothing else. But because he is the special counsel, we really have to look now and see what kind of conflicts he has going forward with what he's doing in regards to this current investigation with, you know, the Russian interference with the elections. And as I've said from the beginning, and I still say, he should not be the special counsel. If anything, okay, you've got your indictment, now step down. Step down and let somebody else continue on in your place. And it's got to be somebody who isn't connected to any of I think, any of the past administrations. I don't know who that would be. I really, at this point, just don't know who it would be. And that's why I think sometimes the best bet would be getting 2 people involved as special counsel. And if you've got this much corruption going on from, again, high-level people, we're not talking about people who weren't, in very high-up positions. You've got to be sure that you're doing everything right. And I call on Congress again to do your job, to get out there and say, look, we do want justice, but we want it done so that the American people, that everything is transparent. You know, the one thing that this president has been so far, and I know the left will disagree, he's been transparent, a lot more transparent than Obama administration has ever been. I mean, you're talking about somebody who the other day, the JFK documents, 2,800 were released, and he was going to hold back the rest of it, probably at the insistence of other people, maybe Kelly and other people saying, you've got to hold us back, there's information. And he came out and said, look, just cover up the names, redact the names, whatever, of people that are still living, and let's put all of it out there. Because why? Because he knew it was starting to look bad. He knew it wasn't transparent. He knew that the people were going to say, what are you hiding, government? And he didn't want to be a part of it. And even though that's all true, the people on the left are going to say, that's not, look at all the other stuff he's covering up. I mean, I think the one thing that we just have to understand is that the left is never going to say anything positive about this president. They will always, always, always be convinced that he did something wrong in, as far as our elections are concerned with the Russians. That's never going to go away. Never. They can present as much evidence as they want, and it will never, in their minds, clear him of wrongdoing. And in fact, let's just pretend that today Robert Mueller, he brought this indictment, and we're done. And Robert Mueller says, you know what, we've looked at everything, we're done, we're finished, we're going to move on, and case closed. Those on the left will say, oh, wow, what was it that Robert Mueller could have found if he hadn't stopped? Did he stop because he was forced to? Did somebody make him resign? What does he know? Is he afraid? I mean, no matter what, it will never be good enough. And their hopes will always be that just given one more time, one more chance, one more opportunity, one more person, 5 more months, 5 more days, that Mueller would have found something else. And I know a lot of people are thinking, well, we're coming to the end of the investigation, and we're just going to move on. As I've said from the beginning, I think this is just going to keep going. We've got the 2018 elections coming up. I don't see Robert Mueller saying, gosh, we're almost at the end here. I mean, I just don't think so. He's got at least a couple more people that he's probably going to want to indict. And we know the other person, that George Papadopoulos, or whatever his name is, Papadopoulos, even that guy pled guilty, I guess, before. They got him on something, lying to the FBI. I mean, basically what that means is, instead of going in and telling Mueller the truth when he was being investigated, he lied about something. Who knows? Maybe he covered up for Manafort. I don't know. But he pled guilty for it. Boom, done. You're over. It's over. And it wasn't like, oh, well, he covered up and didn't say that the president was actually interfering with the Russians with our elections. It wasn't that. The guy probably got scared. Probably maybe has some type of connection to some of this stuff with Manafort. And didn't tell the truth. And now he's having to pay for it. He pled guilty. I don't know what charges, if any, will be brought against him. But that's going to be it. Now, I will say that I believe that one of the next targets is either going to be Flynn or Podesta, Tony Podesta, as I said a little bit earlier. And we're finding out now that Tony Podesta, this is breaking news, Tony Podesta, the brother of Hillary Clinton's former campaign chairman, Jon Podesta, has resigned from his lobbying firm amid reports he is under scrutiny from special counsel Robert Mueller. To me, not a surprise. Again, we're not getting down into the real swamp. Are we going to get down into that real swamp? And who knows? With Tony Podesta, maybe it's the same type of charges against Manafort. Maybe it's going to be he didn't register as a federal agent, a foreign agent, that he was having dealings with Russia or somebody else, that he got money that he didn't report. So I'm guessing it's going to be something like that. Special counsel is looking at him in regards to that and not anything else deeper. So look for Flynn and Podesta, Tony Podesta, to be coming up to be indicted. And we'll see where it goes after that. My guess is after that, how long are we going to run that out? Are we going to look at anything else? We'll let's say at the end of it, of maybe Flynn and Tony Podesta, are people going to say, well, you're doing such a great job, just keep on going. Keep on going, and we'll have you look at uranium one. Now, to me, that's where it would get into crazy. If you're having a special counsel who's going to go in and look at uranium when, again, he was involved because he was the FBI director at the time, and he was investigating some of those things at the time. If that's allowed to happen, all I have to say is that the GOP has definitely lost their minds. So you may want to, brace yourself for that, because it's a real possibility. And as I've said throughout all of this, and I want to make it clear, I'm not accusing Robert Mueller of having done anything wrong at all. What I am saying, though, is that there is a look of impropriety. There are numerous conflicts of interest in my mind. And the possibility, and this goes for everybody, the possibility that there could have been some wrongdoing on his part, which can only be determined if we have an investigation. But that doesn't make him guilty. And I think that the people that we're seeing, Manafort, I mean, when news broke and President Trump let Manafort go as a campaign manager, I mean, I don't think you needed to be a rocket scientist to know that there was something wrong. Those people in the DOJ, FBI at that time could have looked into it themselves, and maybe they were doing that. We don't know. But we certainly didn't need a special prosecutor to tell us that. I think we had all we needed at that point. And the same is true, with Tony Podesta. Maybe they were looking into that, and Flynn at the same time, maybe they've been looking at these people. And clearly that's what needed to continue to be done if there was an investigation by the FBI, by the DOJ, not a special counsel. So it really does kind of make your head spin, because I think we've wasted so much time. We've wasted so much taxpayer dollars that didn't have to be wasted. And honestly, when I look at all of this and I look at the timeline and what the accusations are and all that, I say to myself, my God, how bad is the FBI? How bad is the DOJ? How much, I don't know, how many cases like this with other people that have nothing to do with this administration, but how many cases are they missing each year? How many cases are they allowing to drag out for 11 years without doing anything about it, without knowing that there is a case to be had? I mean, how much are they overlooking? What are they doing if they're not catching people like a Paul Manafort, for example? And again, I'm not saying he's guilty either. There hasn't been a trial. But what are they missing? And then the fact in Uranium One that they knew before 2010 that there was wrongdoing on the part of the Russians in a racketeering scheme, but they continued an investigation for 4 years at least? Really, you needed that long to get this information? I mean, I don't know. There's something wrong here. There's just something. Either the FBI and the DOJ are just the most efficient agencies that we have, or people are getting, or people are just downright getting paid and they're not doing something. Now, I know there's been other cases that they've worked on. I'm sure that, we've gotten some good busts there. And I know even the current DOJ, he's doing a lot of things with the drug deals and the MS-13 and all that. I get all that. But why aren't we getting these other people? You're talking about with Manafort, if all of this is true. What was it, like $75 million? And I don't know. I mean, a lot, let's just say a lot of money. A lot of transfers, a lot of deals, a lot of things back and forth. My gosh, a lot of money. Maybe money we haven't even found because he's got it offshore somewhere, if the allegations are true. So why did no one see this? Why did no one see this back in 2006? Why did I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe somebody saw it and they said, we need to investigate this. It took you 11 years and you still didn't do it, and you had to wait for the special counsel to figure out there was a problem. I mean, does anybody agree with me here? Do you think that there is an issue with the FBI and the DOJ doing their jobs? And no matter what administration perhaps it is, that they're just not doing their jobs for the most part, or they're not doing it as well as they should be doing their jobs? I don't know. There's a real problem that somebody needs to look into and figure out what it is. Are we not giving these people enough money to do their jobs? Are they in meetings all day? With Comey, maybe it had to do with the grandfather clock. I don't know. And I say that in all sarcasm. But it seems like people have time to leak all this information, but they don't have time to go out and nab the criminals and come back and do something about it. I mean, 2006 to 2017. There's an issue here that this has been going on, if true, with Manafort, that this has been going on that long, and no one in the DOJ or the FBI did anything about it or even knew about it. I think that's, instead of, chasing rainbows like we've been doing here with the Russian interference with the election, perhaps we should be looking at that, at looking at our government and the people who are sworn to protect us and are working in the best interest of the United States. Maybe we should be, turn around and focus the camera on them. Because we have a failure here, a big failure. And if they let somebody like Manafort slip by, again, who else did they let slip by that they shouldn't have? Who fell through the cracks? How many more investigations do we have that are ongoing now from 2006 that we haven't concluded? Or that we're just looking the other way? I mean, what's the case? I don't know. And again, in Congress spends most of its day, it seems, in House Intel committee meetings and Senate Intel committee meetings that go nowhere. At the end of those meetings, great show. See you next time on the next show. And that's all that's done. We have a huge problem. Talk about drain the swamp. Yes. Maybe we should just, in the FBI and the DOJ, I don't know, start over. Go clear the decks. Bring in all new people. Somebody that says, you know what, I'm not going to let something go for 11 years. I'm going to go out and get my job and we'll get it done here. I mean, come on. 11 years working on the same project? And again, keep in mind, they didn't even know about it. Apparently, we took the special counsel to go in and say, hey, guys, there's a problem over here. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I guarantee you're not going to hear anybody talking about the problems now within the FBI and the DOJ and how these counts 1 through 12 prove that. Now, we're too busy focused on, oh, gosh, we got Manafort. Now are we going in for the kill to get Trump? Come on. Come on. Nothing has changed except for the fact that a special counsel did your job, DOJ, and did your job, FBI. That's it. That's it. And again, we're just at the very beginnings. We don't even know if the prosecutor, I mean, I'm feeling a prosecutor, yes, is going to go forward and go to a trial with this or plea bargain something. But we don't even know if these people are going to be found guilty. We don't even know if they're going to be doing time. We know none of that. This is all we have to show. And again, it's, I don't even think that the information they have right now, a lot of people are speculating, oh, well, they have all this information now about Manafort. And they want to, he's going to flip. Oh, boy, he's going to flip. And my question is to them, he's going to flip on and do what? Cartwheel? Because right now that's all we got. You know, if you're looking at counts 1 through 12, there's nothing that even comes remotely close to implicating President Trump. I hate to disappoint you on the left, but this is nothing. This is all about Manafort. This is all about perhaps Tony Podesta and perhaps about Michael Flynn and what they did or didn't do. That's totally unconnected, disconnected, whatever the word you want to say, with the Trump administration. period. You got nothing here. So people were speculating, oh, well, but that first count, that conspiracy against the United States, that's big time. He's going to flip. Yeah, go ahead and do some flips. I don't think it's going to do you any good. Because, again, you got nothing on the president. This is the job that the special counsel was set out to do. This is why he was appointed. Again, I go back to that. This is why he was appointed. Not Manafort. That's not why he was appointed. Not Tony Podesta. Not Michael Flynn. No, none of that. And unless the special counsel, could say, well, there's a connection between Manafort and his money and Podesta and his money and Flynn and his money, and they were paid by the Russians because they were all working together in this election collusion, then you got nothing. Then you know, again, that the special counsel has just been looking for something so that he can say that all the time and taxpayer money that he spent has been worth it. Here's what I think. Maybe Mueller should just, if he's so great, he should come back off of retirement. And, as much as I still agree that I agree with Sessions. He had to recuse himself. He said he was going to if his counsel said he needed to. And that's the right thing to do. I know you don't like it, but it was the right thing to do. But here's what I think. Let's just take Sessions, ask Sessions to go away, even though he's done a great job and we appreciate your time here. Let's just get Robert Mueller in as the DOJ. I mean, he's done such a great job and everything else. Why don't we bring him out of retirement? Let's just appoint him as DOJ and let's say go in there and get stuff done. Now, I'm saying that I wouldn't want that because, again, of the conflict of interest here in some of the things that really need to be investigated. But everybody else seems to love him. The left just adores him, thinks that he is the greatest thing. And I even had people asking me on my show earlier today, why are you going after Mueller? Why are you doing that? What is your problem? Why are you going after him? Is that kind of a distraction from Trump? See, things like conflict of interest don't matter to the left. Things like maybe having a possibility of connection don't matter to the left. What matters to the left is they want President Trump out of office. That's all that matters to them. They don't care about the law. They don't care about what is truly right from wrong. They don't care about that. They don't care how you have to do it. They just want President Trump out of office. Because why? Because he's not doing, and when I say the left, and when I'm talking about these people, I'm talking about the elites, the progressive left, the far left. He's ruining everything for them. And the law doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And that's why they don't care about Hillary and any wrongdoing she may have done with Uranium One, during the Clinton Foundation or her campaign. They don't care. It's not the point. Hillary lost. President Trump won. And, by the way, is doing a great job in so many areas. And the left can't stand that. Because if he's doing a great job, then that means that they never were. And they've got to get rid of him because he's making them look bad. They're no longer in control if he's still in control. So it's a never-ending, not even a love relationship, love-hate. It's just a hate relationship of this president and will be through his 2 terms. So I just say, keep your eyes and ears open. Know that God is in control of all of this. He really is. We're not. Know that he is really uncovering everything and quickly. He's allowing us to see really how deep the swamp is. And all the people that have wrongdoing and been a part of it are being uncovered. They will be uncovered. And we'll just we'll keep on hoping that the Congress does the right thing and goes out and appoints a special counsel so that all of these things can be uncovered more quickly. But thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Keep safe. And until next time, take care of yourself. And we'll see you again next week. God bless.